Joining us now with more insight in today's verdict is Rich Schoenstein, an attorney, managing editor of the Hofstra Law Review. Rich, thanks so much for joining us.
Good to be here.
All right, let's get right to it. Weinstein is found guilty on one count, then you have the no verdict on another, and then acquitted on the third. So what does that split decision really say about the jury's view of this evidence?
So this case is three different counts for three different women, three different alleged victims. And it was entirely possible that the jury might conclude one thing about one of the alleged victims, something different about the second, and something different about the third. It's not a case where they've decided guilty to a lower charge or a lesser offense. They've simply decided guilty on one of the three stories, not guilty on a second story, and the third one still being considered.
Interesting. Now, moving forward, could prosecutors retry that undecided decision, and would that be a risky or a smart move?
Well, we're not to that yet. First of all, the judge would have to declare a hung jury and a mistrial, and that's not what the judge is doing. The judge is having the jury come back tomorrow for further deliberations on that second count. So they have a guilty verdict on the first count, a not guilty verdict on the third count, which can't be retried once you get a verdict of not guilty, but no verdict yet. If that ends in a hung jury, then in theory it could be retried by the prosecutors.
Sure. Rich, what do you make of the behind-the-scenes courtroom drama that we have seen unfold before this partial verdict came down?
I think it's troubling. I think what we've heard from this jury in terms of acrimony, in terms of divisiveness, and people trying to exert their influence in the jury room, I think it's fodder for appeal, to be quite candid about it. I think whatever verdict comes against Harvey Weinstein in this case, there's going to be a live appeal based just on what has happened in these deliberations. It's surprising to me that it's taken so long. And I've heard a lot of stuff that I don't really like in terms of how the jury deliberations have gone.
Sure. How does today's outcome, I guess, affect Harvey Weinstein's overall legal future moving forward?
Well, it's a bad outcome for him. Any guilty verdict in the state of New York subjects him to a sentence and imprisonment here. I know he has that California conviction already, and he's serving time on that, although he has an appeal pending in California. You know, if he gets another guilty verdict in New York, the chance of him spending the rest of his life in prison, unfortunately, increases substantially.
Interesting. I guess in terms of leaving it here, talking about the Me Too movement as he was a fixture of, what does this partial verdict do to solidify the broader message of accountability moving forward in this Me Too movement?
Well, I think that it's a continuation of accountability. It would have been perhaps perceived as a setback if he was acquitted 5 years after having been convicted at what we all think was the start of the Me Too movement. So it won't be a setback if he's convicted of at least some of these crimes. But I remind everybody, Sean Combs is on trial down the street also for crimes, you know, at bottom, crimes against women. So the idea, this accountability, this is still alive and well in this country. There has not been a death to the Me Too movement yet.
Sure, the spotlight on both of those high-profile cases. Rich, we certainly appreciate you joining us and breaking this down for us. Thank you again.
Great to be here.